All right, I am going to give you a brief introduction to Word, and I'm going to assume that you already know stuff like how to bold text and how to center text. So I'm going to try and show you some other things that hopefully are new to you, but kind of some basic little tricks. So this will be our flyby overview of Word. So go ahead and open up Word and click on the icon that Word should be in your taskbar down at the bottom. And then we'll go ahead and create a blank document here. So now the other thing that I want to do is we need some dummy content here. So I put a link in Blackboard for you that was right next to the link to this video. If we go back there, it's called Lorem Ipsum. So Lorem Ipsum is a website that just generates dummy content for you. I'm going to click on that, and here it is. And now this is what designers use when they don't have real content, if they need some dummy content to see what their designs look like. So there's this text box down here, and I'm just going to have it create 10 paragraphs of Lorem Ipsum. So after I put in 10 here, I'll click the Lorem Ipsum button, and then what I've got here is 10 paragraphs. So you can go ahead and just select these paragraphs, copy them, cut them, and then paste them into your Word document, and now we've got some dummy content to work with. Okay, if you wanted to, you could, get some other content, but this works pretty good for demonstration. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is that you can select a line just by clicking to the left of it. So see that? If I click to the left of a line, and that comes in handy if you wanted to bold a whole line. That's just a quick little shortcut for doing it, something like that. Another thing I want to show you is that you can either, sometimes I think for you the rulers aren't showing, I think, unless you turned them on, but by default they don't show. But if I wanted to make the ruler show, I could go to the View tab here, and then there's this checkbox for the ruler, so you could show or hide the rulers. I think it defaults to not showing them, so if you've never turned them on before, you won't see them, but sometimes they come in handy so that you can see your margins and your indentation and all that too. So when you got the ruler open, you can there's these little triangles, one's pointing down and one's pointing up. If you wanted to indent the first paragraph, you could select the paragraph, and then if you slide the top arrow here, that indents the first line. If you slide the bottom arrow here, that indents everything but the first line. See how that works? So now I've only got one paragraph selected, but if I wanted to apply this to all my paragraphs, I could do a Control A to select everything, and then I could indent all my first lines like that. And then every time I created a new paragraph, it would start indented. Now nowadays, most people prefer that you don't indent the first line. When I was in school, we always had to indent the first line of a paragraph, but nowadays we've gone to this block styling, which is where the first line aligns with all the other lines. Interesting how things change. Another thing that's good to know about is sometimes you want to control how much space appears after a paragraph or after all your paragraphs. So I'm going to select my whole document here, and then if I go to page layout, so here's the layout tab and here's the paragraph group, and you should know by now that that's how the ribbon is organized. It's got tabs, and each tab has a group. So on this tab I've got the page setup group and the paragraph group, and once you know that, it makes it easy to follow instructions when you're learning about features of these applications. The instructions might say go to the layout tab, and in the layout tab you'll find a button in the paragraph group, so it helps you kind of find your way around. Anyways, I've got all my whole document is selected, and I can change the spacing before or after paragraphs. So if I wanted to increase the spacing, see that, or decrease it, so it kind of helps with formatting. Okay, here's a quick little trivial one, but if I wanted to, let's say I'm going to add a title here. You can go ahead and add a title to, this is the title, and notice how I kind of messed up my casing there. I'm going to go ahead and select this line, and then I'll go to the Home tab and center it, and then here's the little trivial trick I was going to show you, but you can change the casing here. So this button here. It's in the Home tab in the font group. These are my choices for casing. So I could capitalize each word, and just a little trick there. Now here's one that is actually pretty important, and I'll explain why. But in the Home tab, in the paragraph group, you'll find this button here, and it looks like a paragraph symbol. So what this does is this will show you all the formatting that you've applied to your document. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and that's going to turn on my formatting symbols. So look what it did here. After every paragraph, it put this little paragraph symbol. And actually, if you look closely, now there's dots in between where all my spaces are. So what this does is it shows you the keystrokes that don't necessarily appear in your document, such as a return carriage to start a new paragraph. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is because, and I bet all of us have done this at some point, is if you need to, I'm going to scroll down here to near the bottom of the first page. Let's choose this last paragraph here. And I bet we've all done this, I know I have, is if you wanted to make this paragraph break to the next page, what do we usually do? We hit return a bunch of times, and so that puts in a bunch of empty paragraphs here. But what I want to show you is that's not the right way to do this, because I think if you've tried this, you'll remember that it causes problems. So I'm going to back this. Whoops! I'm going to do undo a couple times. So I did Control Z to undo. If you need to insert a page break, don't use the return carriage. Actually insert a real page break. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab here, and then over here on the left there's this page break button. So look at what that does. That instead of putting a bunch of return carriages in there, that actually forces a page break. So that's how you should, if you want to force something to the next page, you should use a page break and not just hitting enter a bunch of times. But what I wanted to point out is these formatting symbols will show you kind of the invisible keystrokes that you've applied to your Word document. And let me go down to page 2 here, start a new paragraph, and you can see this, especially if you create a list. So I'm gonna to add a list, I put my cursor in the spot where I want the list to go. Then I go to the Home tab, and now I've got a couple of choices for lists. I've got a bullet list here, or a numbered list, or I can actually do it. This is a nested list or a multi-level list. I'm going to choose the bullet list here. So and then I might have an item. So this would be item 1, item 2, and so on. Now I can see these formatting symbols here showing up. Sometimes they get in the way, so you might want to turn them off, but they're handy to see what's going on with your formatting sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and click the formatting button, and that will remove all those little formatting symbols, but that does come in handy sometimes. Since we're talking about lists, I just wanted to show you that I'm going to select this list that I just created. I can change the bullet styles. So I can use these little chevron looking things, or these are lots of different symbols that I could choose for my bullet styles. And you can actually create your own if you're into that sort of thing. Okay, I can also set the margins, and I would do that in the Layout tab. So here's the Margins button, and there's some predefined margins that I could choose. So if I wanted to have real narrow margins, I could choose this. If you don't like any of these options, you can choose custom margins and create your own. So you can set the margins on the top left and the sides. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, this might come in handy for your assignment, but inserting tables into a Word document. So I'm going to go to the spot. Let me see, I'm just going to scroll to a place here, anywhere really after a paragraph. And let's say I wanted to insert a table right here. And I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but since this might come up on your assignment, I thought I'd show you. So I can go to the Insert tab, and then here's the Table button, and I click that. Now I've got a couple of different choices, but one of them here allows me to choose the rows and columns. So I'm just going to create a 3x3 table here, like that, and that will insert my table in here. And then I'm going to put some column headers in here. So let me go, let's say this is sales, and then this is 2016, and then 2017, and I might have some numbers here. I'll just, or actually this might be a product, like I sold bikes, and then I sold guitars, just making this stuff up obviously, and I might have some numbers in here. Okay, I can apply styles to this table. So all you have to do is select the table. So I'm going to select something else and then go back and select the table. You can see that when I click on the table, I get a different, I get 2 extra tabs here in my ribbon. So if you've got a table selected, or if you click on a table, then you might see some extra tabs appear. But I can change the style of my table like this. So go ahead and choose any style you want. So that sets up the style. I can say that the first row is a header row, which changes the style of the first row. So, I mean, you could play around with this quite a bit, and there's a lot of styling you can apply to tables. The one that I do want to show you is over here in the Layout tab. So if I go to the Layout tab, where is it here? This Auto Fit button, I'll show you what this is good to know about. So I think it defaults to this Auto Fit to Contents, or I'm sorry, to the window is what it defaults to. But so that will make my table stretch across from the side margin to the other side margin, and that's a lot of times that's what we want. But sometimes we want to just make the table take up only the space that it needs. So if I choose that Auto Fit Contents here, that'll make the table only as big as it needs to be to accommodate the content that's in it. Or you can set a fixed column width for each of your columns too. So usually I like to go to Auto Fit window and have it stretch across from one margin to the other. And the last thing I'm going to show you in this flyby of Word is spell check. And I think a lot of you already know that before. So if I go to the Review tab here, I can do a spell check by clicking this button. Now this is going to make Word go crazy because this is lorem ipsum, it's not real English, so you can see all the squiggly lines there already. But if I click on this button, it can walk me through a spell check. And everybody should spell check their work before they turn it in. And not everybody does. So I'll leave it at that. Trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter. So that's our flyby overview of Word.